Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for assembling here. In spite of having Varamahalakshmi festivities, we can see the house is full. Actually, the venue for this particular session was different. We had planned for 40 or 50 people at ground floor. When we got to know from that online registration, our registration crossed 150. We have to change last minute. We shifted the venue to this place. As a result, we have to compromise with audiovisuals. We had wonderful presentations, but we have to compromise on that because there is lack of screen space here. So we will be sharing these presentations with you as you have registered with your mobile numbers and email IDs with us. Going forward, I would like to introduce Dr. Anjan Goswami, our General Secretary of KPFBA. He is also a doctoral scholar from ISB Hyderabad, a MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and he is also co-founder of Utpan, a mobile application app, and he is also serving at Naujeevan Hatcheries Private Limited and Khadkeshwara Farms and Foods Private Limited, and he has more than nearly 2 decades of experience in various capacities, and being as a General Secretary, he has very good grasp of the industry. He is sitting at the apex and he can see what's happening in various parts of India through his Utpan app, through KPFBA, and he has very good insights which he is going to share with you. I request Anjan Goswami sir to give a presentation, followed by which we will be having a panel discussion, and we will introduce them later after the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Khan, for the introduction. I am thankful to the organizers, the Agritech Expo organizers, for giving us the opportunity to talk about the poultry as a sector and what we are doing today and what probably we may think of doing in coming days to come in future. So I can see a good number of people gathering from our sector. So definitely the number of years and exposure in experience in poultry, it would run into multiple of hundreds of years of experience if I count all the veterans head here. So therefore, I would like to keep my presentations in a way that mostly it will be kind of a holistic picture that we may foresee in coming days as an industry as a perspective, as a sector as a perspective, and also as an enterprise as a perspective. Because I do believe that there are two things, that there is one industry as a sector and enterprise as an organization. So when we talk about the industry, so we normally have seen that irrespective of any industries we talk about, so industries never get abolished. Industries never get eliminated. Industries never completely becomes extincted. It is the organizations or the enterprises within the industry actually gets abolished, actually gets extincted, and actually sometimes becomes what you call it as bankrupt. So the perspective when we talk about as a future, so I would like to throw some lights in a way differentiating between both industry as a sector and entities and organization, because sometimes the industry perspectives may or may not be relevant to me as an entrepreneur, and sometimes the relevances I feel as a sector may not be that be very easily correlated with the running practices of the sector, which even in poultry we very often can see that. For example, even if I know that the maize price is going to be higher in next 2 months or 3 months or 5 months. For example, 2 years back we take the soya price, it went up to 9,900 rupees a kg. So whole industry knew about that. 90% of us could predict about that. Okay, the prices are jumping from 60 to 70 to 80 to 90 to nearing 100. But if we count the number of entrepreneurs or the companies who could take the appropriate actions in the appropriate time in regards to storing soya are very, very minimal. So therefore, when we have the information around us, how do we use it, what are our abilities to use it, also matters when we keep gathering information around. There is a beautiful story on that. It's not time that would permit me to say, but when we have so much of gigabytes of information around us, so we should also know how to use them to best of our abilities and making sure that I am as a person, as an entrepreneur, are bestly benefited with that. With that note, I'd like to start the journey of poultry industry with certain information which I believe that all of us know. But being a fraternity member of the poultry sector and being a proud member of this Indian poultry sector, always we do believe that before even we do anything, everywhere I go and talk, any subject we keep talking about, so we don't leave apart the numbers that we are associated with, which are the broad macroeconomic numbers, because more and more we keep talking about that, more and more we feel proud about that. And when we connect ourselves to the broad macroeconomic contexts, so two things happens. One, that is we identify who are we as a sector. And second, these messages should go repeat to the fraternity and the periphery of that, so that connect with the broad macroeconomic factors in a sector brings the talent into the sector. Otherwise, going forward in long run, when we talk about future, talent is an inherent part of it. So we have to make sure in coming days to be a competitive sector, or even to make my own or your own entity or enterprise a competitive one. The hunting, retaining, attracting best talents is inevitable. So therefore, the best talents doesn't come only for money. Best talents also come for the social identity. Best talents also come for the social recognitions. Best talents also come for the connect in terms of making impact in the broad macroeconomic factors. So that's the reason, so wherever I go, irrespective of the fact that I know that everybody knows about what we are doing in poultry, how many breeders we have, how many layers we have, how many broilers we have, I keep talking about that. Making sure that I reiterate myself that we are contributing to the nation, so that it keep boosting us to keep working for the sector. And also, wherever this message goes, at least the next generation starts taking interest in terms of coming into this sector, working for these sectors. And although we are a farming community, but we have evolved ourselves to a sector which is one of the largest sector in the agricultural fraternity inside. So while having said that, we are the proud second largest producer of eggs, third largest producer of meat, 160,000 crore sector. We give employability to 50 million people of this country, which is about more than 5 crores. And we are the highest consumption of maize. We are the contributor to highest consumption of maize in this country. Out of 30 million metric ton of maize which is being produced, almost like close to 55% we consume. Same is the story with soya. And we provide nutrition to the country. Today the egg and chicken is a story of every household. Even I have seen a lot of vegetarians nowadays who allow their children to eat non-veg, because they started to realize that the meeting the requirement of nutrition, which is protein, sometimes becomes difficult with the only vegetarian foods. So to mitigate that, I have a couple of good friends who are typically like generationally vegetarians, have started to allow their growing children to eat non-veg, egg, boiled chicken, etc. For the reason that they started to realize what is the importance of that bioavailability of protein in a growing children's health. And there is a beautiful data. I am not like collating so many data today in the same 30 minutes presentation because there's a limit of time. But while having said that, there is a beautiful data which is in straight direct propositions in terms of the consumption of chicken, eggs, protein, and the number of medals in the world Olympic tournaments. It may be a correlation, it may be a coincidence, but if you extrapolate that data and see, we'll realize then the chicken and egg consumption, or maybe the protein consumption as a nation, as a contribution, if it is higher, the Olympic medals are higher, and the vice versa. Maybe a coincidence, but think about that. The whole shifting of the cereals consumption, broad microeconomically towards this protein consumption as a nation in India today, if we see, it has been a transition. It has transformed in last at least 5-6 years. I can claim that it has transformed to many extent, particularly during And post-COVID, everybody in the country has started to realize about the importance of health, immunity, and the protein which is connected with that. And you see even in our country, of course, I have not properly studied those data, but intuitively also, if we see the number of medals, number of recognitions, the badminton champion, wrestling champion, boxing champion, there are a lot of champions coming up in India. I'm not saying their talents are not to be considered to be, talents have to be there, but nutrition plays a significant role along with talent to make sure that what we want to achieve, we achieve. So we being the proud fraternity of poultry sector, we always claim that at least we are contributing to many extent of that. That's the reason we keep saying that we are providing the availability of 4.8 per capita availability of chicken, about close to 70 to 80 eggs, with an 88 or 90 billion eggs production per year, 6.5 million metric ton of chicken being produced in this country. And it is expected that this industry is still likely to grow at a 7 to 8% CAGR, which is for next 10 years at least. So these are all the good news. These are all some numbers. I don't know from 4th, 5th row onward whether these numbers are visible or not, but they are all broad macroeconomic numbers which back end connects what I'm talking about, these 6.5 million metric ton of the chicken production, the 88 or 90 billions of egg production. So that's the back calculation of these numbers, the illustrative breeders populations nationwide, zone-wide, similarly the illustrative broiler placement country-wise, nationwide. That is because we are connected to certain, these are all primary industry informations. It may not match with the data which are available in Google or anywhere else, but to my knowledge that it would be closer to the reality because it is being collected from very, very authentic sources within the sector. So I would like to, if you want me to read certain of them, I can read it out, but I do believe that most of you sitting in this house are aware of these numbers very much. So I'm not reading them out, but why I'm asking about reading them out is because I realize that 4th, 5th row onward, these numbers are not visible. So these are the illustrative layer populations, state-wise, zone-wise, and their percentages. And these are about 40 billion layers in this country, producing about 88 billion eggs per annum. So when we talk about the sector, so opportunity is a must. Opportunity has to be there, and here in this industry also opportunity is there, and we don't differ from that. So when I talked about the changing food behavior, so there are two types of opportunities for us in this poultry sector. First of all, by default we are in the food segment. So when we are in the food segment, so we never get expired. As long as the mouths are there, as long as the human beings are born, one or the other way, one or the other person will keep eating chicken, eggs or whatever food we produce. So thereby, we are fortunate enough to be in a sector where as a sector we are 100% sure it will never get abolished, it will never become irrelevant, it will never become abolished or eliminated. So therefore industry-wise we are always happy even the rates are ups and down. I keep saying the same thing to all my fraternity friends, whoever keeps talking to me, worried about enterprises. I say that you don't bother about the industry. Industry will remain as it is. But you bother about your own enterprises, your own cash flow or your profitability, your own cost, so that when the industry remains, you also can float along with the industry. So when today we talk about the future, we'll talk about these both industry and enterprise little separately so that we figure out how I am relevant to the changing future of the industry and what is my best of ability to correlate with that. So again, the opportunities that we have been repeatedly talking about, I spoke in the beginning also about these opportunities. I do believe that you are not being able to see this because it is too far for you and the screen is very small. But yeah, this is, I'm talking about the same thing like the conversion of cereal to protein, then vegetarian family eating non-veg, population is growing. So growing population will eat more chicken. Again, the people who are eating more chicken and egg, maybe twice a week, thrice a week in the urban population, as Dr. Professor Devagara sir has rightly mentioned, it is also increasing. So enhancement in per capita consumption is going to be increased any which way because we would keep pumping in. We would not stop. As long as we keep pumping in, there is an availability. And there are certain food which is available means people keep eating. We may reduce the price and sell. That is up to us. But as long as we keep producing, we encourage our productions, we enhance our productions. It is because of maybe the efficiency of performances, availability of more yield, lesser mortalities and better livabilities, etc., whatever the reason is, or maybe the more and more breed coming into the country, the efficiency of the breeders in terms of producing more eggs, more chicks, but we would keep producing. And if we see last 15 years data, we have never decreased our productions apart from the temporary phases. Those temporary phases are only our obligation. So as a choice, we never have diminished our growth. So I intend to believe that as long as we are growing and growing as a choice, so availability in the market is nothing but the consumption. Because I don't recollect a single kg of chicken being thrown by anybody. Somebody or the other in the country is eating, irrespective of what rate we are getting out of it. So that's an opportunity in that way, if we say. That too, we are contributing to about close to 50% of what the entire meat and egg, particularly the different pieces of meat, that lamb, then this pork, then buffalo meat, and all put together, whatever we say, is we all know that about 50-55% contributions we as a fraternity, we do as a poultry sector. So till now the news is good, everything is rosy, so we all make money, buy good cars. So but the point is ki we all in poultry keep crying as well. When we sit, many often we keep crying among ourselves, what will happen to the sector, and nobody says ki what will happen to me. Everybody is concerned about what will happen to the sector. So I am contradicting here and saying ki nothing will happen to the sector. It is on record. I am saying it may happen to me, you or somebody else, we may get abolished. So we should be worried about ourselves. Industry will be a going concern any which ways. So when we talk about these challenges, when it comes to the sector, the challenges are related to the production performances. I may get an FCR of 1.5, 1.55, 1.6. Somebody else may get at 1.8. So there is a strong probability as per statistics that I may sustain some more period in the given same rate compared to my counterpart if he is not performing in that level. So these are challenges, and mostly these challenges are in the entrepreneurial level, in the going concern. Similarly, Dr. Prakash Reddy has very beautifully has shown how important the disease control is required. What is the requirement of immunity in our birds in terms of prevention of diseases. Then regulations and different kind of rules, regulations. Other than only, I think about a month back, we were working out on certain regulatory affairs which is being brought by the government of Karnataka now in the construction of farms, in running the breeding farms, even running the broiler farms, or even doing the contract farming agreements with our farmers. So these are the things that we as a sector together should think about or know about. Going forward, we have to see that even if it is a farming activities, beyond a point we cannot afford to do very, very casually the things. And the next important point is the groundwater uses, land area utilization. I will come to that also because it's like when we say about things that the population will increase, so the food requirement will increase, so thereby the protein requirement also will increase is a logical statement. But the inverse phenomena is the cultivable land area is not increasing. It is rather decreasing because of the degeneration of the lands. So when we talk about that, there is a diminishing curve. So one way we are growing in terms of populations, let us not talk about the world, let us be within the country. We are growing as a population. So I will come to a slide where I will showcase how the land area cultivable is reducing day by day. So that's a concern. So tomorrow we may have to land up buying maize. I remember about some 7-8 years back when I was a very active executive body member of IBPI. So we conducted one seminar. So one very eminent speaker, he or she was talking about that availability of raw material would be there probably because our efficiencies are enhancing, so our requirement of raw material or requirement of food also against producing a per kg broiler or producing one egg may reduce. But we have to pay the price for that because of the lack of land availability. Because now we are using about 9.2 million hectares of land for maize production, producing about 30 million maize per annum. We are using about 11 million hectares of about land for producing about 10 million metric ton of soya. Imagine that is about all put together. If we talk about this cultivable land in this country, which is about close to 160 million hectare, it falls into 0.12 hectare per individual. On that already maize and soya has contributed to 9 plus 11, which is about 20, and 20 on 150 is more than 10%. What I mean to say here is, maize and soya are only two crops, right? We have hundreds of crops, 140 growing population with the open mouth to eat. So efficiencies in our sector is one. Efficiencies is those sectors, utilization of land. Challenge in pertaining to that will be also others going forward when we talk about the future. So we have to be careful about that in terms of alternative nutrition, or maybe using byproducts or any other sources maybe which can be kind of like what we talk about nature, right? Because this nature has been shown to us in a way that not everybody can eat anything. So for that purpose, it has been beautifully, nature has divided among ourselves in species, that somebody eats something and we create byproduct out of it, and then byproduct out of it and consume that. So that phenomena also has to play a significant role in terms of our production planning, our farming practices. So then all things, this environment, restricted use of drugs, antibiotics, all those factors will also be significantly playing a role. And the market volatility, competitions, foreign players, merger and acquisitions. I don't know, some of you must be aware that merger and acquisitions and collaborations have started to happen in our sector. There are some players who have acquired some small breeders and they are operating together as jointly as in collaborators. So this is just a beginning. Till now we were talking about only as in individuals. So now we can see that there are news in the industry that people are collaborating. There are some operators who have started to do that, and that means when the collaboration starts, when the competition converts into collaborations, then certain set of players in the sector start becoming strengthened, and that strengthenedness may be in terms of their operational skills, setup, resources, and also in terms of investment. So how do we cater to that as an enterprise? How do we position ourselves as an enterprise? And that matters in future, what we are supposed to do or what we are not supposed to do for that purpose. So that is how I have just added that fancy tagline, which is called as decommoditizing commodities. That means as long as we keep selling broiler birds in some of the meetings, so we keep, some of my statements will be very controversial, but that should be okay. So we keep saying the traders is minting this money, that money, etc., and we producers are not getting. Then I ask the simple question, who stops you to become a trader? Then it becomes a very difficult business for all of us. We want our birds to be sold right in the farm gate with some next day money. I may reduce 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees, or as a layer farmer, I may reduce some 10 paisa, 20 paisa, 30 paisa and get rid of it. So all marketing managers in our companies are the marketing coordinators for that purpose, because they coordinate, minimize the price and sell. So the future is not going to be in that way. We have to make sure that we have to bring some abilities, and that is where the talent will start playing a significant role. That if we are intending to do that for a long time, either I will remain as a contract manufacturer for somebody who will fix my price on behalf of me, or I will get abolished. So both the way there is a possibility. If I am efficient, probably the abolishment or the extinction is the least possibility. The primary possibility is what has been recently happening, that giving up and merging with some bigger players and becoming a contract manufacturer or a contract producer firm. That's a business model. There is no denial that that's not a business model, and there is no denial that there is nothing good and bad about that. But choice as an entrepreneur should be in our hands, that whether I would like to remain as an entrepreneur in terms of building my own brands, or I would like to become an entrepreneur by manufacturing or producing something for some bigger company as a contract manufacturer. There are a good number of examples worldwide who are good companies, big companies. They have been running their business model as a contract manufacturers. If you see the partners of Apple's, partners of Samsung's, or even in our poultry sector, there are companies like Protex who have been contract producers, contract manufacturers, contract processors. But that's a business model. They're absolutely fine with that. But one has to make the choice for that purpose. It should not come to us as in one fine morning obligations, because if it comes as in one fine morning obligations, then the ball is not in my court. The bargaining power of the other collaborator will be very, very high and squeeze away the terms out of me. So if there is a preparedness to be there, that I will be an hardcore, good quality hatching egg producers and combine with or associate with 3 or 4 big companies and regularly supply with them, it's a good business model. But when we do that voluntarily, that is a business model. If we do it out of obligations, then there is no more a business model. It is an exploitation by the other party. So there we need to make a choice, not beating around the bush all the way that somebody else is doing, because I always keep saying within my own company also these two terms. One is aspirations, another is ability. So aspiration is that I want to be in Prime Minister of the country, and what Mr. Narendra Modi is not being able to do, I might be able to do. But where is my ability to do that? So there is no harm judging, gauging and comparing that. Every individual should have a SWOT for that. Particularly the people who are sitting on the helm of the affairs of the companies. I should not make 4-5 calls early morning and talk to few customers and figure out that the broiler price is going to go up and my placement should go up by 1 lakh a week or 2 lakh a week. I have no idea, sitting in the helm of the affairs, where form the working capital requirement for 6 lakhs broilers, which is like going to be in stock till the time I sell the first birds, which requires about close to 6 crores, is going to come. So the challenge is that we need to take care of. The one fine morning decisions based on the intuitions, based on 4 or 5 phone calls would not going to work is the future. So this is what I was talking about. So re-narrating the land area availability vis-a-vis the populations. In 1951, if we take the reference, so population of India was about close to 36 crores, 361 million, wherein the per capita cultivable land availability was 0.89 hectare, which has now come down to 2011. The population has gone, as per census, to 121 crores or 1210 million, and it has come down to 27 hectare cultivable land per person. Now in 2021, 2 years back, the census, the population has gone to 140 crores, 1401 million. Against that, the availability of cultivable land has reduced to 0.12 hectare. Detrimental. So one should be take care of that. That is where the future we should think about. The considerations are efficiencies. We have to produce our protein, we have to produce our eggs, chicken with the bare minimal feed, bare minimal uses of resources, and loud and clear with the numbers, considering the fact key from 4th row onward my slide is not visible to anyone. So that is where I have divided here the industry sectors and the enterprise. So the challenges or the opportunities over the future, broad perspective in the industry sectors are very, very different, like macroeconomic changes, consumer behavior changes, market growth potentials, M&A, collaborations, etc., different kind of, or even these land area availability, etc. But in the enterprise level, I need to see how do I stand in terms of my business model? What do I do in terms of my resilience or adaptability, or maybe innovations in terms of going forward, what I like to do in next 5 years, 6 years or 10 years down the line. So most of the entrepreneurs like us, or the proprietors of many of the poultry companies, of course, apart from a few, would be spending their time on our day-to-day firefightings, because it becomes in compulsion. Every day there will be hundreds of WhatsApp messages, there will be hundreds of rate declarations, there will be hundreds of concerns. Every week we have to price declare these, that. Every night we have to talk about that. So we don't much talk about the sustainability and profitability in hand. Normally in many of the organizations in the other sectors, because I've got my good friends across different sectors, so I just keep interacting with them to figure it out, how do they operate. The CEOs or the managing directors of the company are precisely only thinking about the sustainability and solvency of the company. Profitability is in the hand of the managers. Profitability is all about the cost, all about the profit, all about the consumption, all about the overheads, workouts, etc. But the managing directors and the CEOs are thinking in the directions of the sustainability of the organizations and the solvency. So this is where we need to factor ourselves, that when we see a future trend, so where as an enterprise I create my business model, I create my adaptability, what do I do as my product, what I am producing, like at what phase. It is very easy to say for me from this stage, you do vertical integration. If you are producing hatching eggs, you do produce chicks from tomorrow, or you do produce broiler from tomorrow. It's my aspiration also. But where is my ability or resource capability to do that? Integration is a nightmare. 90% of us, we know that. It is not only about making profit and loss, it is also about the lot of operation hassles. So how do we mitigate that? How do we optimize that? How do we see that we make our businesses, like I say that there is a terminology, sometimes I keep stealing those terms from the government pages, that they say ease of doing business. I say ease of operating business. Ease of doing business is starting a company, registering, incorporations, creating an MOA and AOA. Nowadays that become very easy. But we have to see how do we make our companies to make sure ease of operating businesses. So the advices are very, very pertinent, but sometimes again coming back to the same words, what we advise, what we do, and what is our aspirations and ability, we need to always check and do things as an entrepreneurs. So there are certain drivers, then that is what like all my slides talk about, the production efficiencies and change in consumer behavior. I'll talk to the consumer side of it, but I'm still now talking about the production side of it. How do we see the differentiations? It is not that I'm creating a formula of doing this or doing that. I'm just trying to give here an holistic picture about the sector as such and what are the things that we should look at, and the proposition that I'm trying to create here is for everybody's mind that whatever we try to do, we should first evaluate our SWOT. We should first create our competitive abilities. We should first create our resource capabilities. Then we go to the industry sector and do things, because every individuals, every enterprises within the same sector, the resource capabilities and the competitive advantages are different. That we need to understand before even we burn our finger in doing anything. Whosoever comes and suggests is my suggestion. Anyway, so yeah, so this is the consumer side of it, like slowly coming into the consumer behavior. It's a subject that we all have been talking about now, the behavioral science, consumer behavior, all that has become a part of now the macroeconomic factors of the country. So see now, this is I think the PwC has done this beautiful research about a year and a half back. So the perspective of consumers, what do they intend to do, because this research and the market research is very, very important. So whatever we try to do, the 64% of the people at their personal capacity, the matrix needs to be read like this. In the personal capacity, feel that I am fearful for my own health. So as long as that fearfulness of 64%, mostly the urban dwellers, the research is all about, because it may not be into too much of a rural level, but I do believe there is a good contribution happening in poultry now, and as Dr. Professor Devagara sir has rightly mentioned, that about 200 kg of chicken, almost like annually, or 200 eggs annually they are eating. So it's a good numbers to showcase it. So as long as health comes as a concern at personal capacity, so there is a willingness to pay. So when there is a health comes, that is how the hospitals always will not have any bargains. There are two places where there is no bargains: alcohol and hospitals. So all good note, hospitals will have never bargains, because nobody would negotiate in the hospital bills, because it is connected to health. So when it comes to the health and the hedonic factors, and hedonic factor is connected to our experiences around it, which is again or a lighter note to give the examples of alcohol. Nobody goes and bloody kind of negotiates when to go in alcohol shops. But all other things in this earth will be negotiated. So when it comes to the health, so we need to take care that we produce a nutrition which we can connect towards the health of the persons, like what Nandu's is very rightly trying to do, producing an antibiotic-free chicken, organic chicken. Many of our counterparts are like Lifeline, Dr. Patabiram, Dr. Arun Kumar Rai, or many across the country, even Salimar in Eastern Zone, now are doing it, and this is where we have to hit as a retailer, because of this behavior of the consumers, that they are now intending to believe more towards their health. And also there are many, which is like in 82% of the people concerned about their health, not only about their own, but also about the social context, that they are bothered about others as well. So there is a concern, and that's the reason we can see those nowadays, a lot of videos with a lot of intentions, people who do with different intentions. I don't want to make a comment on it, but the point is, there is a concern. This factor is coming here, whether it is good, bad, impacting, harming, hazarding us, that's a different thing. But there is a concern nowadays, 82% of the people, among at least the samples that PwC has done, they are saying they are also concerned about the health of the society. So it's not that one gentleman alone, it's about the consumer as a group, that he is bothering about the others, the family members, the other people who are there in the circle. So that is how these ratings, reviews, etc. has started to play a significant role in terms of anything and everything we produce. And see their buying behaviors. This is specifically for the purpose that will be helpful for those who are into the retails and who are planning to be in the retail sector. How the consumers behave. Still 32% of this population in this country, although they buy things online, they would still love to come to a physical retail shops. In particular, to buying certain things which they feel is connected to their health and connected to their core areas of their day-to-day activities or for their children. And 45% of the Indian consumers still, they keep on browsing things online but still come to a offline purchases. Probably we can have some more insights during our panel discussions, because we have a good number of 3 or 4 of experts in different areas today, particularly in retail, in online, in technology, how exactly they must be having some good data on how the consumers are behaving in terms of this, what we call as a hybrid behavior. And in against that, we create those omni-channel platforms. So, yes, technology and digitization is going to be our future. Please keep it in mind that every steps of our production, every steps of our value chain, supply chain, all aspects of our supply, sales, marketing, communications, technology and digitization is going to be inevitable. Those who still feel that the uses of technology is like diluting data, soaking data, or maybe my data will be in the cloud, somebody else can see. So I strongly suggest and recommend that we should come out of that mindset and start implementing technology and digitalizations in every area of the production functions, supply chain, and in the marketing and sales areas, because the all set of communications only can happen with the availability of set of data which can be interpreted in different ways. So, and we can see from the data that which has been published by the Government of India that about close to 69 to 70 crores of people are active in internet use on day-to-day basis. It is not that user percentage, it is the active user who keeps on hooking with the technology platforms. So thereby we have to going forward in future very, very precise about investing our enterprises towards digitalization, technology and the information technology. So second important point, what I always see that which is missing in our sector, apart from 1 or 2 online channels which we always very proudly keep giving examples of, we as a sector could never attract contemporary investments. And that is one of the reasons that apart from very few 1 or 2 big companies or maybe 3, 4 of the companies across country, if we see, other mid-sized entrepreneurs who are like falls into bracket of SME or MSME, they are not being able to invest towards infrastructures. They are not being able to invest towards resources. They are not being able to buy even raw material on time in spite of the fact knowing that the prices are going to be going up and down, which plays a significant role. That is for one reason, because still a very, very primitive stage we are in as a sector. Although this graph shows that there are 61 billion, 68 billion, 58 billion kind of an US dollar is being pumped in as an investment by the PE, VCs in different sectors altogether within our same country. Appeal to the entrepreneurs, including myself, would be to prepare our companies, I say as a bride. Normally when I talk to someone, I said we should prepare like a bride. So prepare like a bride or a groom so that my company becomes an attractive venture for any private equity or any contemporary investments to do. That is the only way of investments if we can really crack. Therein we may not have to keep on giving our own land and properties, whatever assets we have, and create debts and being the single owner proprietors. So in going forward, there are news that in the sector that a couple of even 2-3 years back, 2-3 of our counterparts, big companies could avail it, and even very recently one of the poultry company also has got investments from the Ps and VCs, and we can see the outcomes now there, how they are expanding and creating the infrastructure around. So while having said that, so there would be a belief system in our sectors also going forward that if we create a company with a robust business model which is scalable, which is transparent, this ESG is going to play a significant role, which is like environment, social and governance factors. In our poultry sectors, we have been running companies with very, very poor governances. So governance factor also is going to play a significant role going forward in preparing ourselves towards scaling the organizations, creating a growth trajectories, creating infrastructures and attracting investments, which is quite possible, I do believe. And if it happens, starts in one sector and there are multiple of companies, there is an opportunity towards that. So for example, there is a Patna based company called Eggos. So they produce egg. He does contract farming for the layer farmers, as simple as that, what we all have been doing for years together. But you see his valuation, you see his investments and how he is doing. He's a young IIT graduate who has given up his job and started some 5-6 years back that company and branded his eggs called Egos. We all have been selling eggs from years together, but that young guy a couple of years back came and disrupted and got that investments into his kitty. So with that, like, we have been producing chicken, we have been into the core poultry activities like breeding, feed milling, integrated farming, and we are making impact to the society in terms of giving employability to the farmers. There are a lot of funds which are basically into the sustainable funding, impact funding. Their funds are, their whole objective or their mandate rather is to fund in that sustainable sectors or impact funding sectors. So we should prepare our companies to target them and see that at my level also, if I can scale it up with the help of investments and make sure ki what exactly I aspire to do, I bring in the ability within that. So this is what is the narratives of this product getting converted into a brand. That means the decommoditizations, and as far as possible, everything in this art can be decommoditized, can be branded. Any services, any products can be branded, can be differentiated. Only it's a matter of thought process. How do we bring it into? There was a time when even nobody thought about that the rice, chawal, atta would be branded. Now you see how beautifully ITC and Hindustan Livers and many other companies, even those fruit juice, coconut water, everything which are actually typically a commodity has been decommoditized. So we all in poultry going forward as a future, we should look at it, whatever produce we are doing. It is not that necessary that to brand I have to have a direct to consumer approach. Even in B2B level there can be a branding. So even in business to business level we can create a produced or we can create a roadmap which is like superior than others in terms of my branding. So not necessary that we should connect our mind to only starting some omnichannel platforms or technology platforms, then only it will be branded. Whosoever, whatever we do, I feel we should start progressing our thoughts towards decommoditizing. That means shifting the product from the product side to the brand side. And when we do that, there has to be some innovations, there has to be some value propositions or value additions, some bit of inimitability, which is like others just cannot right away do that, which can be a differentiating factor. And obviously, no, last but not the least is the communication and the marketing. We should all know to communicate and do bang about our products which we produce. Because the sellers, being the producers, we have the products in our hands. So we should know how to communicate effectively, rather market our products effectively, making sure that we differentiate from others. That is a very broad subject. It obviously has got a lot of debates and discussions required, but that can be thought about, because as long as we keep our products as utilitarians, there would be always a price sensitiveness, there will be always a bargain. But if it goes to the other side of the curve, which is like more experiential, what I gave the example of hospitals or any other product that we buy for our experiences, or even we go and buy a cup of tea in 5-star hotel by paying 250 rupees, it is because of that hedonic factor, which brands can bring in. And there the price sensitivity goes down and higher willingness of pay to come. And normally as a commodity, we target the whole population. For example, it sometimes comes to my mind, even I have the aspiration but may not have the ability, but I can throw it here, somebody can catch it up. I say okay, we can typically produce the chicken and we say that that chicken and egg has been incorporated with the type of nutrition which the diabetic patients can eat. We can typically segment or target or position our product only for the people who are above 60 or above 50. Maybe my market size is slightly lower, but I'm precise. Anybody who has got parent at home, they might think this chicken or this egg is better for my dad, because otherwise doctor would have told him not to eat chicken and eggs. So I'm just giving a bare example. So within the sector itself, going forward, it is very important to create that segmentations, not thinking the entire 140 crore population is our target. So I had written an article about a couple of months back in one of the poultry magazine. There I have given all the fragmentations in terms of tables, that basically we are producing 50 plus kg per capita consumption for chicken. And 200, 300, at least egg is still well, because normally nowadays most of the doctors would not say that don't stop eating eggs. But still today I know that there are a lot of people or doctors even would say they stop eating chicken. So what I'm saying is that 140 crore is the population in front of us, But if we fragment it into 1 to 6 years old, 6 to 15 years old, elderly, disease, cardiac, diabetes, and fragment it veg, non-veg, then we are producing 50 plus kgs. So we have to factor in which segment we are trying to cater to. So there can be branding within the product level saying ki my chicken is the best for, it is a replacer of mother's milk. Just giving an example. It can be a replacer of what these powders, these companies are for years together selling for Protein X or those boosters or something. God knows what is there inside. But why not we can position our chicken into that bracket? If we see the growing country, 35 years is the average age of the country. So if we create the proposition of the inborns and the age bracket at which is 1 to 6 years old, so there can be a good segmentation, there can be a good positioning. My chicken can be only for that. But I may not have to forgo the others, but can be a focused area. That is where the decommoditization comes in the picture. Same is the case for the B2B segments in the broiler, in chicks, and even broiler live birds, it is possible. Because there will be certain set of integrators who would be not bordering about maybe 1 or 2% hatchability, but they would be bordering more about their yield per gram of feed being consumed or yield per kg of feed being consumed. So imagine I may not be able to give 92% hatchability, but I produce eggs which is like nourished and managed in a way that I had proven the fact that any integrators or big operators who buy my eggs actually gives them 0.1 FCR lesser compared to the any eggs he purchases from the market. So that is where is the segmentations. We may not have to think out of the sky that we have to do this and that to create segmentations. We have to create this and that for the branding. It is just next to us that we have to keep creating. Yeah, so coming to the ends, and that's what just reiterating that in every aspects of our operations, in farming, in processing and value additions, we have to go towards mechanizations. There would be human being for sure, but probably going forward the down the line workers and the other things will also be a problem. So we should look at mechanizing the processes, how we can maximize and do that, how we can keep better control through digitization and the mechanization in the farming practices, in the value chains. Yeah. So these are all the summary of what I am saying in terms of what is mean by the automations and mechanizations, how it can be implemented in the production, in the storage and value additions, and supplies and logistics in the marketing. So this is the last slide. The takeaway that way forward is sustainable farming practices, which means this talking about the land availability for the workers availability to the scientific practices, investments obviously on infrastructure and resources, product quality and cost competitiveness, value additions and branding, technology adaptiveness I talked about, backward and forward vertical integration based on the abilities, what we can do, preparedness for the company that I have mentioned about, then market connect, informations. There are a lot of, even I and along with my co-founder Ankita have developed an app about 1.5 years back, which even like we aggregate a lot of information in terms of markets, we analyze, we create, and going forward, I think Ankita would talk about that. It is going to give analytics in terms of predictions, how to place, when to place, what to place. That's why the market connect and price competitiveness. Yeah, thank you so much. I think I have taken some extra minutes time, and thank you for your patience hearing. And my sincere apology if I have hurt somebody's sentiments or emotions, because I sometimes when I talk very upfront. But yeah, one is about future. So I thought that I should behave like a Babaji. Otherwise, if I don't behave like a Babaji, so how would I talk about future? With that note, thank you so much. Thank you, our Honorable President Sir, Khan, and all the organizers and the dignitaries who are sitting and patiently hearing me. Yeah, thank you once again.